Today we're going to be looking at the Justice League if they existed in Marvel. I've now gone through a vast majority of Marvel teams and reconfigured them as if they existed in the DC universe. So now over time, I'm going to be trying to do the same thing with Marvel and DC teams. Of course, I do know a lot more about DC than I do Marvel, but I'm still going to try my best. Now, the DC equivalent I've done for this video is what if the Avengers existed in the DC universe. You could 100% say that the Avengers and Justice League are kind of the equivalents. They already exist in each respective world. However, there's also the Squadron Supreme, which has a lot of similarities, if not is meant to be kind of that mirror of the Justice League in the Marvel universe. So if you really just want the simplest answer, that's where you can look. However, that takes away the fun of what I do here. So very similarly to those previous videos, I'm going to give you 4 teams of what I think a Marvel's Justice League could look like, each team representing something a little different. Team 1 consists of Captain America, Black Panther, Thor, Spider-Man, Nova, Namor, and Vision. There's at least 4 or 5 of these characters, if not more, who are known for being an Avenger or have been in the Avengers together all at the same time. It's a little hard to get around that, considering once again the Avengers is Marvel's Justice League in a lot of ways, but mainly this team represents a lot of what the Justice League represents. This is the closest mirror image you could get to the Justice League, in my opinion, in the Marvel universe. Captain America may not have the same powers and abilities as Superman. He's also nowhere near as powerful as Superman, but their beliefs, their morals, what they stand up for is what keeps both of these characters very connected. Also, the fact that both of them are kind of the symbol for American truth and justice. Superman is often seen to be the leader of the Justice League, and there is arguably no one better at being a leader in Marvel than Captain America. Black Panther and Batman, again, I think it's pretty obvious. Both insanely rich, both super smart, both have their own gadgets, both suits are similar in their own ways. In a lot of ways, he's the rich billionaire part of the team who is capable of outfitting this version of the Justice League with everything they need. Thor being the mirror of Wonder Woman, both gods or demigods from an ancient type of civilization that has a lot to do with the mystical aspects of Marvel or DC, and again, other ancient gods. Both extremely skilled warriors who like to fight, or when given a reason to fight, are one of the best fighters out there. There are other characters in Marvel that I think have similarities to Wonder Woman, but Thor, when you view it from a popularity standpoint, makes the most sense. With Spider-Man in this team, he's more well suited to the Flash role. Now, of course, he's not as powerful as the Flash, and their powers and abilities couldn't be any more different, but it is their personalities. Depending on what Flash you're looking at, both of these characters offer the comedic relief. Both of them are very intelligent in their respective areas of the scientific field. And then, not to take up too much time with Team 1, but remaining, you have Nova, who is going to be the closest representation to Green Lantern, Namor, which, come on, closest representation to Aquaman, and Vision, which again, closest representation to Martian Manhunter. So deep down, who the Justice League is at heart and mind, this is Marvel's very best iteration of what they could be. The only difference is there is no female part of this group, but I do believe that all of these characters are the best interpretation of what DC's Justice League would look like in Marvel. Then for Team 2, I went with Blue Marvel, Iron Man, Captain Marvel, Hawkeye, Black Widow, Hulk, and Silver Surfer. This team was mainly built to be an overpowered Justice League. This is featuring a lot of Marvel's heaviest hitters amongst each other in one team, but again, not just in power and strength, but in intelligence. Blue Marvel, Tony, and even Bruce Banner are geniuses. The power level really kicks up a notch too when you again look at Blue Marvel, Captain Marvel, Hulk, and even Silver Surfer. Silver Surfer would be this Justice League's universal connection, since I always believe that the Justice League needs some form of presence like that. Hawkeye and Black Widow, yep, not the most powerful characters, but if you can look at the actual Justice League and understand why Batman is there, then I think we could find a way of understanding why these two characters would be here. Especially too, if they do come along with a good connection to the government, this Justice League could be able to work in tandem with their government and on their own accord as they see fit. I think this team would have a little bit of growing pains. There would be some people who would get annoyed with Tony Stark. There would be a level of misunderstanding with Silver Surfer. It would be hard to keep Hulk in line, but I think at the end of the day, these characters could all come together and find a way to make this work. I think it's also worth mentioning too that Captain Marvel has spent a lot of her life out in the universe as well. So maybe there could be a connection as to why her and Silver Surfer are both on this team, and maybe she was capable of bringing him along and convincing him to join. With how powerful this team is, I think they do become a little bit more than just being Marvel's Justice League over Earth. They become a Justice League on a more universal level. I'm not saying this team's going to be going out to different galaxies in the universe, but they are at least going to be shoring up defenses across their solar system. They would be powerful enough to defend it and smart enough to do it. Then for Team 3, I decided to go with Hyperion, Daredevil, Hercules, Black Bolt, Storm, Scarlet Witch, and Quicksilver. I don't necessarily have a mold to this team. There's nothing in terms of if this is the smart team, this is the powerful team, this is the this team. I just kind of liked the layout of the team. It was really interesting to me. I mean, you have an Eternal, you have a street level vigilante in Daredevil, you have a Greek god, you have an extremely powerful king in Black Bolt whose voice could crack mountains if he simply whispered. Overall, this team has a lot of very powerful and very skilled characters who I don't think would often come together all that much, if at all, and yet they find themselves part of a Justice League. Hyperion can fill in that role of Superman, especially when you take in his strength and his abilities. A lot of people do consider him to be one of the closest representations of a Marvel Superman. Daredevil perfectly fits that role of Batman. I don't even think I need to go into reasons why. It is also good to have somebody like Daredevil on the team who's capable of understanding moral compasses and knowing when the tough decisions need to be made. Hercules, an ancient god warrior like Wonder Woman. With Black Bolt, you really fit in this role of the Aquaman figure, being a character who is a king to his own people, the Inhumans, while finding himself in a world that he's not fully accustomed to, being Earth and humanity. Quicksilver, it's obvious, filling in the role of the Flash and then coming along with his sister and Scarlet Witch. I think there are elements of her filling in for Martian Manhunter. But then for Storm, I think there's an argument to be made she could also be the counterpart to Wonder Woman in this team. More so for her, if you look at Green Lantern, he is utilizing and harnessing the nature of the universe throughout the rings. Well, for her, she's harnessing the nature of our planet, the weather. I think what makes this team so interesting is, again, how different they are. A lot of these characters' interactions would be a lot of fun to see. Even though almost half of this team are mutants, Storm, Quicksilver, Scarlet Witch, and don't quote me on this, but I think you could consider Black Bolt a mutant. He might be more than that. I'm not too sure. They're not necessarily mutants that would be really close to one another. So seeing all these characters' relationships and maybe even friendships form would be very interesting. Then, just like in DC, they've written Batman and given him reason to be able to stand up with these gods. He, in his own right, has basically been viewed as the human god of the DC universe. You could give that opportunity to Daredevil to now have him working amongst all of these extremely powerful people that pale him in comparison, really. So Daredevil will always be a street vigilante who prioritizes the protection of Hell's Kitchen, but he also learns how to work with these other extremely powerful people, making him better for it. I think it's very cool that all of these characters are coming from very different corners of the Marvel universe, yet are finding a reason to come together and form a Justice League. Now for Team 4, I have Sentry, Moon Knight, Magic, Punisher as War Machine, Ghost Rider, Psylocke, and Angela, or Aldrich, the firstborn daughter of Odin and Freya. The main purpose of this team is to be a little more darker and a little more aggressive. A team that obviously stands for good, fights for the betterment of the world, and removes threats and criminals, but they do it in ways that a traditional superhero wouldn't. I don't think too many of these characters here are necessarily fitting the mold of what a DC's Justice League would look like. I mean, obviously you have Sentry fitting in for a Superman role, Moon Knight for Batman. You could even technically say if Batman's morals were off, you would have Punisher fitting in for Batman. Angela is the Wonder Woman. Maybe even in ways Ghost Rider could be the Martian Manhunter. But overall, these characters are so vastly different that we don't need to look at it like that. These would also be a group of characters at the beginning who really don't want to work together, and a lot of them might even think I work better on my own. But the more they started to team up, willingly or not, they realized how much more efficient they are together rather than them being alone. Even too for Punisher, I think that guy is badass enough to be able to join this team and do what he does best without the War Machine suit, but just to give him that little bit of extra juice, why not give him the suit? This is also a version of the Justice League that might not necessarily be accepted by most people. When it comes down to the logistics of it, this is a team that is getting the job done. It's just more so, are people liking the way the job is getting done? And they'd be split down the middle. Some people would love them for what they're doing, taking the brunt of this responsibility on their shoulders, and then others would be more used to a more traditional hero presence rather than their anti-hero presence. This team could offer a lot of dynamics, not just amongst each other, but amongst other characters who maybe want to involve themselves with how this group deals with what they do around the rest of the world stopping threats. A lot of heroes would have their eyes on this team as well, because there would be some people who just can't read them well enough. Are they good? Are they bad? Do they get off on, potentially being a little more aggressive and killing their villains? Something I think we would need to remember about this team. They're also very powerful, some very smart people here, and sure and confident of their abilities. They wouldn't really care how people talk about them. They wouldn't really care how the world sees them, because at the end of the day, it's the world who should be thanking them for stopping these threats that threaten their lives. They get their hands dirty, so we don't have to. I don't necessarily think this could be called a Justice League. You would need to call it a Vengeance League, perhaps. That would be more accurate to the term of what this team is doing. But I just wanted to throw it in there to give you a more darker look at a Justice League and what I think it could look like in the Marvel Universe. That's my thoughts on what Marvel's Justice League could look like and the 4 teams I created. To be honest with you, I think my favorite teams here are Team 3 and Team 4. I think there would be a lot of really cool interactions between all characters, and it would be really neat seeing a lot of these characters who don't often team up. I'm also on a little bit of a high after re-watching Punisher and Daredevil, and now that I've caught up with with those shows again and caught up with those characters, I kind of have more of an appreciation for them and want to see them interact with the rest of the world a little bit more. So that could be a little bit of a bias here. Regardless of that, you guys let me know in the comments below which of these four are your favorite teams and what your particular Justice League team in the Marvel Universe would look like. But that is all I have for you on this one, everyone. And until the next time, I will talk to you all very soon.